Reit, bore da a chroeso cynnes iawn I bawb yma I Landudno ar ddiwrnod eitha hyfryd o fis Medi yma ar lan y môr. Mae'n braf iawn croesawu chi gyd yma i'r Fenyw Cymru ac hefyd croesawu chi I gyd sy'n ymuno ni ar-lein. Naill ai yn fyw neu os ydych chi'n gwylio recordiad o'r cyfarfod yma rhywbryd, diolch yn fawr iawn I chi am ymuno â ni. Dyma ein cyfarfod cyffredinol blynyddol. Mae'n gyfarfod sydd yn statudol wrth gwrs, mae'n gyfarfod, mae pob bwrdd iechyd yn cynnal mwyn sicrhau bod ni'n cwrdd ar anghenion, ond mae'n gyfarfod dyn ni'n awyddus I gynnal mwyn cael trafodaeth ehangach. Nid dim ond o gwmpas y materion ffurfiol fel cyfrifon ac adroddiad blynyddol, ond hefyd mae'n gyfle I ni estyn allan a cael y trafodaethau anffurfiol gyda pobl dyn ni'n gwasanaethu ac hefyd ein staff. Dwi'n falch iawn o weld cynifer o aelodau staff o'r Bwrdd Iechyd yma heddiw. Rhai ohonoch chi wrth gwrs yn cynnal rhai o'r stondinau dyn ni wedi gosod, ond hefyd rhai ohonoch chi'n ymuno â ni mwyn clywed beth sy'n ni ddeud, ac mae hynny'n peth braf iawn. Croeso cynnes I aelodau'r bwrdd sydd wedi ymuno â ni. Mae yna nifer wedi ymddiheurio hefyd. Dwi ddim am I rhestru nhw, ond mi fyddwn nhw ni yn y cofnodion oherwydd ymrwymiadau eraill. Ond at ei gilydd, mae yna croesdoriad da iawn o bobl yma yn y cyfarfod ac yn gyfle gobeithio I ni rannu rhai o datblygiadau efo chi. Fel oeddwn ni'n deud, mae gennym ni fusnes ffurfiol I wneud heddiw, ond hefyd dyn ni eisiau rhannu efo chi rhai o datblygiadau sydd wedi bod yn digwydd yn y Bwrdd Iechyd. Mae'r Bwrdd Iechyd, fel sawl Bwrdd Iechyd arall, yn y newyddion yn gyson, yn dydi, am ryw o resymau. Ond dwi'n teimlo yn gry iawn bod angen I sicrhau yn bod ni'n cael yr sgyrsiau yna gyda chitha fel yn staff ni a gyda'r cyhoedd yn gyson mwyn I ni rannu ein stori ni ac I chi hefyd ddweud o'ch profiadau a'ch hanesion chi fel yn bod ni yn dysgu. Mi fydd gennym ni rhai cyflwyniadau mewn munud. Mae yna pobl wedi ymuno â ni yn sicr o'r tîm gwasanaethau anableddau dysgu. Mae gennym ni Mr Cwdman a Mr Iesudason, dwi'n meddwl, wedi ymuno â ni I wneud cyflwyniadau mewn chydig, ac wedyn mae gennym ni aelodau o tîm y Gymraeg hefyd sydd yn mynd I wneud cyflwyniad. Dyn ni hefyd am glywed gan Angela Wood, ein cyfarwyddwraig nyrsio, sydd yn mynd I sôn am yr agwedd yno'r gwaith, ac wedyn bydd Russell Caldicott yn cyfarwyddwr cyllid dros dro hefyd yn mynd â ni trwy'r cyfrifon blynyddol. Felly mae yna fusnes ffurfiol, ond mae yna hefyd gyfle I chi gael cyflwyniadau sy'n mynd I sôn am peth o fanylion ein gwaith. Ar y diwedd yn ogystal, mae yna gyfle I gael cwestiynau a gobeithio cyfle I ni rhoi atebion I rhai o'r cwestiynau. Mae ambell I gwestiwn wedi cyrraedd ymlaen llaw, ond falle bydd gennych chi rhai cwestiynau o'r hyn dych chi wedi clywed o'r cyflwyniadau heddiw. Gai yn gyntaf felly gyflwyno Carol Shilabeer, ein prif weithredwraig, I chi, dych chi'n gyfarwydd iawn â Carol, a mae Carol am fynd â ni, tywys ni drwy'r cyflwyniadau, dwi'n meddwl. Diolch yn iawn a croeso cynnes I Carol os gwelwch yn dda. Diolch yn iawn.
Diolch, Dyfed, bore da pawb. There we are. I hope I'm not hurting people's ears already. So, Carol Shilabeer dwi, Prif Weithredwr. I'm Carol Shilabeer and I'm the Chief Executive of the Health Board. And this is my second AGM, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here and to see so many people. And I really do hope that people who are in the room are able to engage with the annual general meeting. As David was saying, it's a really important event, not just because we have to have one, but because we want to have one, and we want to have one in the hearts of communities. So lovely to see so many people. I'm just going to give a very brief overview because we've got some great presentations from some great colleagues to hear from this morning. Just a sense of how much work has been happening over the last year. It's really hard to get into a few short presentations this morning. So I'd encourage people to have a look on our website, have a look at the annual reports, have a good read of them. So I'm going to start with, what do we do as a health board and what's our purpose? We're here for two reasons. One is to help improve the health and well-being of the population. And the second one is to provide or secure excellent healthcare services. And if we move to the next slide, we just show that the range of services that are provided are really significant, and the next. 700,000 people are the people that we are trying to help improve their health and well-being. It's an enormous number of people, and we do that with so many partners, some of whom will be with us in this room, some of whom will hopefully be watching us, and some of whom will be as far away as places in England, in specialist centres, etc. So I want to take the opportunity to say a huge thanks to everyone who supports the health and well-being of the people of North Wales and works so well with us. We have 3 district general hospitals, as everyone generally knows, but 16 community hospitals, and we were meeting just the other day with people from the community who were putting across their value of local services and those community hospitals, and we were endorsing that view. 83 dental and orthodontic facilities, practices, optometry, opticians, pharmacy, a whole family that provide health and care here in North Wales. So we just move on to the next slide. I was stood just down the road about this time last year in the community hall, and I think I'd been in post for just a few months after the organisation had moved into special measures, where we're a 12-month on from that now. But when this period, for this report, we were reflecting, actually one of the first things we had to do back in April, May, June of last year was to stabilise the board. That was a really key task, a lot of change very quickly, and a lot of profile, as David was saying. You know, it felt like there was hardly a day when the health board wasn't under the spotlight, and we know that that affects people in terms of their confidence in the NHS, but also our staff's confidence in the organisation. Now, I'm really pleased, it's a jumping ahead a bit, but to say that we have a much more stable health board, and that has been reviewed by Audit Wales. So we're not just checking our own homework, others are checking that for us. The other key challenges, a wide range of concerns really relating to a number of areas: sustainability of services, quality, leadership, governance, and financial performance. You're going to hear about all of those things from colleagues presenting this morning. But the context is difficult, isn't it? We know the country does not have a lot of money to put into the public sector at the moment, and a lack of capital investment in terms of infrastructure for buildings or for digital projects. Although we are working very hard on both of those things, and you'll get to hear a bit more about that. And then, of course, workforce availability, but also workforce health and well-being. Following what has been a once in a 100-year event in terms of the pandemic, we know that many of our colleagues are feeling very tired and that need to re-energise. So lots of challenges. So if we move on to the next slide, if we may. So what have we done? And I think if there was one headline, it's progress has been made, but there's still more to do. And the Cabinet Secretary, as was just before this Cabinet Secretary, published the Special Measures Quarterly Report recently and said very much the same. So what have we actually improved in the last year? Board leadership, independent members of the board fully recruited, many of whom are in the room today. Executive team recruitment is ongoing, and we've got new colleagues who've joined us and will be joining us. We've developed a clear delivery plan for the year, and we also developed a rapid approach to special measures. There was no time to waste, and we were very keen to get to the improvements that were needed. A big focus on culture, leadership and engagement, and that's work that will take several years. But the board made the commitment back in September 2023 to really focus on these things, because it is culture that makes change happen. And the saying of culture eats strategy for breakfast, you know, we had a couple of those sayings. We've brought in international experts, and in this very room had an audience with Henry Engelhardt, for example, the founder of Admiral Insurance and a global company. We brought in Professor Michael West to help us with our compassionate leadership approach. Improved engagement with communities and with stakeholders. It's really important to us as a board that we are open and transparent. We are honest about where we are as a health board, the challenges we face, but also the work that is going on, and actually and celebrate the excellent practice that is here in North Wales. Improved financial control. I'm not going to say too much about that because Russ is going to cover that. And then moving to become a truly learning organisation. And I think Angela will touch on that a little bit later. But how do we learn when things don't go well? But also, how do we learn when things do go well? And we spread that learning. Thank you. Next slide. So there's a lot on here. I'm just going to pull out a few things. These are master messages that you'll get from the literature that I've mentioned to you. So the effectiveness of the health board is improving, but there is a way to go, and we're very ambitious. We want to be the best. That's what we're setting out to be. We have seen improvements in key services. So vascular services were a service requiring significant improvement under Health Inspectorate Wales, and that was de-escalated. So they saw sufficient improvement to say that that is no longer needing that escalated level, and not in this financial year, but more recently, improvements in the emergency department at Ysbyty Glan-Clwyd. So we again have no services in Healthcare Inspectorate Wales this escalation. A relentless focus on planned care, and I'm not going to say too much because you're going to have a fantastic presentation from two colleagues who've been working on catching up from the care that we weren't able to give during the pandemic and the large numbers of people who are waiting. Now, this is a really key focus for us as a board. This is where most of the public will be judging how well we do, is how long do they wait to get in. And we've often heard, David, haven't we? Actually, it's hard to get into the NHS, but when you're in, the care is usually pretty good to excellent. So actually access is key. And this shortage of capital has been a real challenge for the NHS, but we have secured around £27 million for the development just up the road here in Llandudno for the planned care hub, and you're going to hear a bit about orthopaedics shortly. Orthopaedics will be key from that site. Improvements in urgent emergency care, but it's really, really tough. We know that we have way too many people still in hospital who want to get out, to be frank about it, and we need to enable the community services that will help them to be put in place. Key developments in Bangor and in Rhyl, we're working really hard to secure funding for some of the health and care settings in our communities, and a lot of focus on mental health over the last 12 months. And as a board, we see mental health as a key priority, and it's a regular feature. And then last but certainly not least on the headlines, much greater focus on the experience of people. We often talk about people's access into the system, and be that in primary care or in secondary care. But when they're in, what is their experience of getting in and then when they are with us? And the quality of care, quality is a really key priority for us as a board. So I think that's going to be it largely from me, because I now have the pleasure of handing over to two colleagues who have been working in orthopaedics and driving forward improvements and developments and innovations. I'm really excited about what they're going to say. So I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Kodumarti. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this, you will correct me. And Mr. Jesudason, welcome and thank you both very much indeed. Do you want that? Or do you want that?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak to you all. It's a great honour for us both. I'm Edwin Jesudason, and I'm also known as Prash by my friends and colleagues.
Morning, everybody. My name is Preetham. I'm a consultant orthopedic surgeon specializing in hand and wrist in Wrexham.
And I'm Ysbyty Gwynedd. So we'd like to just share with you some work. We won't take too much of your time, but I'm going to hopefully make your day, especially Russ, who keeps us financially. So I'm going to prove to you in the next 10 minutes that we can do more with less. Yeah, yeah. So briefly, we'll just go over the timeline of what we've been working on over the last 4 years, key contributors, evidence of the multidisciplinary team engagement, our results, and we've had quite a lot of impact, both locally, but also regionally, nationally and internationally. And Preetham will talk a bit about our future plans, which are quite exciting. So this is the timeline. So back pre-pandemic, Preetham and I were discussing how we can make surgery more environmentally sustainable. Surgery is a real hotspot for carbon generation and for waste generation. And this really came out of, this project was born out of trying to reduce the carbon footprint of what we're doing. But also, if we make things more environmentally sustainable, we also use less equipment, use less stuff, and it's cheaper. So it's a win-win for everybody. And patients and staff love it. So we identified team members in 2019. We started collaborating, and we became runners-up in a national competition called the Green Surgery Challenge, which was run by the Royal College of Surgeons, and that gave us some national recognition. And basically, in over 10 weeks, we took a simple carpal tunnel operation, and we demonstrated we could save 65% in terms of financial savings, and we can reduce the carbon footprint of that operation by 80%. We did that in just 10 weeks. And now we're trying to make that the norm of the way this operation is now done. And then that led on. Preetham is a super modest guy. He's not going to tell you what he's done, but he's basically got a higher degree out of this project with the British Society for Surgery of the Hand. And Preetham and I and one of our colleagues, Professor Lees from Manchester, we wrote a paper in 2023, which was awarded one of the top 10 best papers in hand surgery last year. So we've presented that in Europe and hopefully in the States next year, we'll see. And then our next plans, which Preetham will talk about, is how we adopt and spread this. So we've kind of talked about that already. So a collaboration across the two sites. And Preetham's put this slide that basically, when patients come into the hospital, they have an awkward journey often, and we want to try and simplify that as much as possible. And so we've done a little bit of work on the pathways with hand services to make things as smooth for the patient presenting to our clinic. Building an effective team, we could not have done this without a whole team behind us. So infection prevention, hand therapy, admin team, theatre staff, procurement, CSSU, management team, and of course, patients. And this is just a snapshot of a few of the key members of the team. There's probably a dozen more who are not in this photo. So the aims, our primary objective was, can we reduce the carbon footprint of a carpal tunnel release by a lean green instrument setup, smaller drapes, and a green pathway? And phase 1 was part of the Green Surgery Challenge, and we're in phase 2 now. So on the left is the green set, which we use now for a minor hand operation, and on the right was the standard set. Now, we only have a certain number of standard sets in the theatre, and because we do quite a lot of these, we could do 10 or 12 or maybe more in a day. And if there's more than one list happening, we run out of those standard sets. So we open an orthopedic hand set, which has about 40 instruments on that I'll never use for this operation. So we compared it to, and that's what we use now on the right-hand side for this operation. So it's much less equipment. And previously, we drape the patient like this for a hand operation. So we cover them we nonchalantly throw the drape over the face and drape the whole body out, and the incision's that big. It's 2 inches big. So we just need to prep the hand. We don't need to prep the whole body. We're not taking his liver out. We're doing a hand operation. So by just changing the drapes, we've dropped the waste generation. So that's the old set, the old setup on the left, and on the right is the new setup. You can see straight away, overnight, we've halved the amount of waste we're generating. And this is sort of data from 2021, and now this is the norm, and we've dropped that even lower now. So I'll hand over to Preetham. But basically, in a nutshell, we can do more cases, more cheaply, better for patients, better for the environment, and we need minimal infrastructure and resources. We need a little bit of cash, but not a huge amount. But the savings are enormous, and this is just one operation. So there's a whole plethora of operations, and hand surgery is probably about 30% of orthopedic surgery. And hand trauma, a little fact for you, 1 in 5 things that presents to the front door of the hospital is a hand or wrist injury. And we haven't even talked about trauma yet. So there's huge potential savings to be made. I'll pass you over to my friend and colleague.
Thank you, Prash. This is just a bit more of granular data. And so this is what differentiates our study from any other study so far. We actually took those numbers and estimated the carbon footprint savings, and we estimated about 80% reduction in the carbon footprint. So the bar on the left shows how it was, and the right is what it is. And the main difference is because of lesser instruments and smaller drapes. And we looked at financial savings, about 65% savings, as Prash was saying. And this is our norm. We've done about 300 patients across the 2 sites in Wrexham and Bangor. And so far, touch with no complications. Patients have universally reported good outcomes with the process. We then said, okay, we've now achieved our phase 1. Let's move to phase 2. We actually moved the procedure out of the theater into a smaller procedure suite, so-called minor procedures room. So I now do these procedures routinely in an outpatient clinic, which is doubled up as a theater on the day when I have these sessions. And breaking down the cost, these are estimated cost savings of each patient of about £1,120 from the beginning to the end, from the patient referral to the patient discharge, the appointments, the number of staff required, the theater costs, follow-up visit costs, and the cost in the community. So we put them all together, and this is how much we think we can save for each patient by doing these procedures in the outpatients minor ops. And we've been lucky enough to be to partner with Llandudno, where we opened up these 2 rooms now, and they've been operational since June last year. We had a bit of a stop-start in building some infrastructure up, but we are up and running now. We looked at how many people are required to support the patient's journey through on the day of the operation. And traditionally, it required about 9 people: the staff, the porter, the ward staff, theater staff, and everybody else, about 9 people. If you were to do it in an outpatient setting, it dramatically reduces to 4, and the patient journey is cut down from 4.5 hours to 2 hours. We've done about 100 patients like this since June last year, and again, touch with no complications. We routinely collect all the patients' outcomes data through patient-reported outcome measures, specifically looking for infection and their satisfaction rate. And we've managed to reduce our waiting times significantly. And we've created extra space by moving these procedures outside the theater for an extra 50 bigger procedures during the same time. So this is just a summary of what's achievable: 66% of savings in terms of staff, less appointments, 50%, 80% carbon savings. So everywhere you look, there are savings to be made. This is so-called triple bottom line of sustainability. So any project is sustainable if it's great for the planet, great for the patient, but great for the pocket as well. So this project demonstrated that it is ticking all those 3 boxes. So regionally, we've created a bit of an impact. Our hospitals now have green groups, both at Wrexham and Bits Gwynedd, where the green groups meet regularly and discuss similar projects of interest. Multiple projects are now in existence, and ENT, ophthalmology, dermatology, and plastics. They're looking at this model to see if they can embrace principles that we've applied. As Prash alluded to, we've been fortunate to have a recognition at national levels. This study featured in the Green Surgery Challenge was published as a part of the national study, and we've both been given an innovation award earlier this year. We're fortunate enough to go to Cardiff to receive that from Mark Drakeford. And this is my picture of my MSc dissertation that I received for the same project. I thought I'm putting the work in, might as well publish it. Yeah. So we've had a few publications so far. The top right shows you the paper that we published in the Mainstream Hand Surgery Journal. It's one of the top 10 papers last year. And Prash has published a few more papers looking at pushing the sustainability agenda. Prash is on the BSSH, the British Society for Hand Surgery Council now, so he's got a bit more of a voice towards sustainability, which is driving that agenda. We were at FESH, which is a European Society for Hand Surgery conference, where we coordinated a symposium on green surgery as well. Well, if you were to adopt these principles, we believe that significant savings can be made annually across the country, close about up to £90 million, and a significant amount of carbon savings can also be achieved. But more importantly, you can offer much more timely care with less waiting. What are we planning to do for future? So I myself have looking at increasing this same principles and driving it into the world of hip and knee arthroplasty. So what we do in terms of our carbon savings is pretty much a fraction of what the hip and knee guys do. So we are looking at, we published a paper earlier this year looking at the carbon footprint of a total hip arthroplasty. Next step would be to see how can they decrease their practices. So Prash and I both are Bevan Fellows now, which is again looking at how can we increase our work we've done so far and expand on it in our own ways for the next couple of years. So yeah, every project that finishes is kind of beginning to the next journey. Thank you very much.
Well, how inspiring was that? Wasn't that absolutely fantastic? I'm really grateful for you both for coming along today and sharing all that with us, and the work that you've undertaken and the way you have built a team and the way you have progressed things. And the important thing, one of the important things I think we can take from it is the link between the environment, efficiency, finance, and patient outcomes. Actually, there's always the danger that we think none of these things are interrelated, but you illustrated really, really well that connection between the environment and providing a better outcome for a patient, actually. I was tempted to ask if you've got time at lunchtime to do my carpal tunnel, as it would be. I think I can squeeze you in. I think so, but I won't do that. But thank you for inspiring us. And in the middle of everything else, that reservoir of inspiration will help us, not just for your department, your team, but it will help us as a health board. We can take what you've achieved to help us to try and achieve other things across the health board. So we're really, really grateful and look forward to hearing about more developments as well. And congratulations on all the success. Diolch fawr iawn i'r ddau ohonoch chi a'r tîm I gyd. Let's give them another round of applause. Ag wrth i ni symud ymlaen, dwi'n meddwl dwi am alw ar Teresa. Dwi'n trio chwilio am Teresa. Mae yma Teresa Owen I ddod I gyflwyno Siôn o'r tîm, ac yna fe gawn ni gyflwyniad gan Alaw o ran waith ar y Gymraeg. Felly, Teresa, dros at y ti, y meicroffon yma, neu hwnna?
Ond os gai, a gael ati yn y Gymraeg. I'll carry on in Welsh. Diolch yn fawr iawn. 2 funud fyddai, ond eisiau cyflwyno Siôn Gallagher, sydd yn pennaeth nyrsio i ni, gyda'r gwasanaethau iechyd meddwl ac anableddau dysgu. Llawer ohonoch chi'n nabod Siôn ers blynyddoedd. Mae Siôn yn gwneud gwaith arbennig a mae yn fraint cyflwyno Siôn heddiw oherwydd y gwaith da sydd yn digwydd ar draws y bwrdd iechyd a'r anableddau dysgu. Wrth gwrs, mae'r gwaith yn rhan bwysig iawn o'r cynllun blynyddol yn y bwrdd iechyd, ond yn ogystal mae ganddon ni waith gwych yn digwydd efo anableddau dysgu mewn partneriaeth ar draws Gogledd Cymru. Da ni'n gweithio gyda'r awdurdodau lleol a gyda grwpiau trydydd sector i wneud gwahaniaeth. Ond mae Siôn a ni Ceila oedd i fod yma heddiw, ond mae hi wedi gyrru ymddiheuriadau, mae hi ar ei wyliau. Yn mynd i gyflwyno chydig ar y gwaith da ni'n ei wneud, ac dwi'n siŵr yn mynd i ddeud stori fel mae Siôn yn wneud aml i waith. Ond hoffwn i sôn am y gwaith da sydd yn digwydd yn gyffredinol, fel y Project Search sydd yn digwydd, a braint oedd hi'n ystod yr haf oedd codi fflagiau ar gyfer diwrnod ymwybyddiaeth anableddau dysgu. Paul Rudd oedd y fflagiau sydd yn bwysig iawn i ni, ac o'n i yna hefo Siôn yn codi'r fflagiau, ac hefo rei o'r myfyrwyr ifanc sydd yn trio cael swyddi, a mae yna Project Search yn helpu pobl ifanc i fewn i swyddi ar draws Gogledd Cymru, am siŵr yn bellach hefyd. Wedyn, drosodd i Siôn os gai, a diolch o'r iawn i Siôn am gyflwyno heddiw. Diolch o'r iawn.
Well, noteless. Bore da. My name's Siôn Gallagher. I'm the Head of Nursing for Regional Specialist Services, which includes Learning Disability Services, which is my presentation is going to be on. You might have heard of another couple of Gallaghers. There's no relation. I can't get anybody tickets. Okay, it's just not happening. Okay, do I need the clicker? Oh, not started well, has it? So I just wanted to let you know who we are. So we're part of the Mental Health and Learning Disability Division. We're a pan North Wales service providing health service to adults with a learning disability living in North Wales. We provide specialist community inpatient services and specialist domiciliary care across the region. And we work collaboratively and in partnership with Learning Disability Lead Agency Adult Social Care. Throughout the partnership, hopefully you'll see how this links into the annual plan for Betsy, and I think you'll find some of those key themes running through it. So just to give you a sense of what our population is, we've got 13,000 people with learning disability in North Wales. I can't see that. So I might need to see tonight. Okay. I'm definitely not going to start singing Oasis songs. Okay, we have 300 people aged 65 and above, 2,630 adults receiving support from LD services. Most people with learning disabilities live with their parents, 800 people live in supported living, 400 people in their own homes, 380 in residential settings, and 36 people in specialist inpatient services. That's about right, isn't it, all? Yeah, I think I've got that right. Okay. So this is our geographical area. You all know North Wales. It's for us, we work collaboratively with the 6 local authorities. Our main hospital is in, the star seems to have gone up. It's in Llanfairfechan, which is in, it's in Llanfairfechan, Brynneath site. Okay, these are the services that we offer. So we've got the inpatient setting in Learning Disability Hospital, that serves about 24 people. We've got community-based provision across the 6 areas, got hospital-based services and acute liaison services. So I'll talk a little bit more about how we work into the 3 district general hospitals. And then we have pan North Wales services where we have, for example, our specialist behavioural support services that supports people across North Wales. So these are just some of our drivers. So what is leading on how we're developing our services? So we've got the Learning Disability Strategic Action Plan. We've got the Delivery and Implementation Plan. We've got the Disability Health Improvement Programme. And we've got a North Wales Learning Disability Plan. So I'll talk a little bit more about the Partnership Board in a minute. And obviously we work with the Social and Services and Wellbeing Act. Okay, so for North Wales Learning Disability Health Service, our focus is to improve the health of people with learning disability, reduce the known health inequalities, and reduce avoidable and premature deaths. So again, it's talking about working in partnership. We want prevention and early intervention, having the right support, right time, right place, people being safe. Co-production is quite rightly forming one of our main core ways that we're looking at developing our services. We're looking at people having something meaningful to do because we know that has specific and targetable benefits on people's physical and mental health. Voice and control, that multi-agency approach. And obviously, one of the big areas for us is always that transition when people are moving in between services, and the other areas will recognise transition as one of those key areas. So just to say this is what we're setting out to do. We're taking a pathway approach. We're looking at all our services, to reviewing how we deliver those services to get better outcomes for people. And this is where we link in with the partnership. So we've got an LD strategy that is hosted by the Partnership Board, which the local authority lead. We've got one of their directors is the chair. And within that, we kind of work to kind of achieve these outcomes. So when I put this together, this was the slide that everybody said, nobody's going to understand that, so leave it out. And I'm looking at it now thinking they were probably right. What I want to try and talk to you now is just a little bit about how we deliver services and how important those different elements come together to make it an effective delivery. So just to focus on health liaisons, so we have 4 health acute liaison nurses based in the DGHs. We have learning disability champions. We have primary health liaison services that link in with the GP clusters and are responsible for the annual health checks, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And we wanted just to, again, I know it's been mentioned, but that Paul Ridd mandatory training, we were champions of ensuring that became part of mandatory training for the health board. It was something that we were asked to do, but we championed that and we monitor that. And I think we're seeing gradual uptake of people doing that training, and it's really reassuring that people are having that opportunity to learn from that young man's individual journey and how it's helped shape health services going forward. So with this, what we're looking at is the way we do things with our partners. So here, I'm talking about how we use people who actually use service. It's an innovative approach to get them to peer mentor people in terms of the annual uptake of annual health checks. And I think it's really important that we had some money from Welsh Assembly Government to improve annual health check uptake. So we've used that to commission jointly with the partnership team, this group of individuals who are leading on this peer mentor, and also kind of, because they're so excited about what they're doing, broadening out their approach to general raising awareness of LD. A couple of these guys are coming to the Staff Achievement Awards on Friday because we've had a partnership nomination. So I think it's a really nice recognition of how they're fully integrated into that workforce. These are some of the health check champions. You can't do an LD slide without getting a few people showing you how much they're enjoying their involvement with services. And this is some of the things that they do on a daily basis. And then to add to that, we've developed what's called Lab in the Bag. So this is where the community learning disability teams across the 6 areas work with an innovative way with the GPs. So we're kind of commencing some of that early parts of the annual health checks. We're doing it virtually. We've again, with monies that we got from the Welsh Assembly Government, we're resourcing all of the teams. And because that funding wasn't just annual, we got a 3-year plan, we were able to employ a specialist nurse who's been supporting the teams in the development of their expertise. And what we've seen is, notice the 2021 46, where when it says claims, that's basically what the GP appointments, they're the annual health checks that we've achieved. And we can see that gradual increase. And what's really fundamental about this is about addressing the historical inequalities in healthcare for adults with learning disabilities. And it's really, really important that we recognise that, you know, I'm a learning disability nurse by trade. You know, just the very fact that we exist is an indication of the inequalities in the delivery of care over the past 60, 80 years. Okay? Oh, sorry, let me just go back. The pie chart, just to say that's broken down into the regional areas. The reason that's really important for us as a service is we do see disparity across the areas, and particularly Gwynedd in that rurality. And I think that's where Lab in the Bag is really coming into its own. Okay. So there's an exciting time to be involved in developing learning disability services. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. We've got the pool budget and the step up, step down. So we've got a pool budget, we've got a section 33, partnership working agreement through the provision of the pool fund budget. Vaughan from Anglesey, we've chosen Anglesey as the pilot site. It's fantastically positive. Anglesey are really engaged with that work. We have really good relationships with the 6 authorities across the areas, and that's really something I'm very proud of. And I think we've just finished phase 1, it's being evaluated. And again, this sits under the partnership umbrella, so it goes through the project board. We're doing our evaluation and we're hoping to go into phase 2 in the very near future. And what we're seeing from that is not just looking at how we're using resource, but how we're talking to our practitioners about how we do things differently. It goes back to those drivers that I talked to a bit earlier. And then again, step up, step down. I'm probably not going to save as much money as the first people, but I do think we'll see some real value from the way that we're looking in providing care going forward. So this is an intermediate care solution, and basically ensuring that people stay in Wales, in their communities, rather than going out of area. And then we've got positive behavioural support, which links into that intermediate care plan, which is about supporting people to work with people in a way that we know is clinically evidenced. So the positive behavioural support model is really some of the way that we base working with some very complex people in terms of the delivery of care. So this is the PBS integrated approach. We've got all the services across North Wales signing up to it. We're providing training. We created a community practice. That's not the word, is it? What are they called? Thingy of practice. Community of practice. Thank you. And it was there. I just couldn't drag it out. Okay. And then I just wanted to finish on the health equalities framework. I think it's really important. This is an outcome framework based on factors to determine health inequalities. This is not an outcome tool, but what it allows us to do is to see if we can reduce those inequalities. And we use this in all our community teams, and we're rolling it out into our other services to be able to demonstrate that change in people's lives. And the Welsh Assembly Government are looking at a self-assessment around the HEF as well. So I think going forward, we're going to be able to demonstrate how we impact directly on people's lives. Diolch.
Yeah, diolch yn iawn, Sean. And some of the things you highlighted there, I'm sure have registered with others in the room, working in partnership, how key that is, and the whole agenda of health inequalities. And we know for us in this region and the communities right across the region, be they rural and urban, one thing at the heart of everything we do is to tackle health inequalities. And can I thank you and the team for the excellent work you've done and are doing, and in particular the work in partnership with others. That is absolutely key to ensure we provide the best possible services for the people who use them. So thanks for everybody who's involved in that. Diolch yn iawn I chi gyd. Ag rwan, ydy Teresa am ddod ymlaen rwan I gyflwyno y rhan nesa, lle fyddwn ni'n cael cipolwg ar waith y Gymraeg yn y bwrdd iechyd, dwi'n credu. Felly, Teresa, dros at y ti.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Cadeirydd. A mae'n fraint arbennig arall i gyflwyno Alaw Griffiths sydd yn swyddog gyda'r tîm y Gymraeg ac yn arwain ar yr safona'r Gymraeg a chydymffurfiaeth, Cotsaffa sydd y gair yna o hyd. Mae'n fraint arbennig, dwi'n nabod Alaw ers blynyddoedd maith, y ddwy ohono ni, mae dim ond 20 di'r ddwy ohono ni. Da ni yn nabod yn gilydd ers cryn sbelen, ond mae'r gwaith yn arbennig. Deudai'm llawar, ond mae'r cadeirydd wedi rhoi her go iawn i'r tîm y Gymraeg a finna o ran cymrygeiddio'r bwrdd iechyd a trio rhoi cyfleoedd i bawb gweithio'n ddwyieithog lle mae'n bosib a wneud yn siŵr bod ni'n rhoi'r cynnig gorau'n cleifion o ran y Gymraeg lle mae'n bosib. Wedyn, dyna di'r her, a dwi'n gwybod fod Alaw a'r tîm wedi codi'r her yna, ond mae yna fwy o waith i wneud fel mae Carol wedi deud yn barod wedyn. Fydd Alaw yn rhoi rhywfaint o uchafbwyntiau o ran y gwaith da ni'n wneud yn y cynllun blynyddol ac yn gyffredinol hefyd wedyn. Drosodd i Alaw a diolch yn fawr iawn, Cadeirydd.
Da. Reit, mond un sleid sy'n gynnu, so dwi ddim angen hwnna, diolch yn fawr iawn. So dwi jyst wedi siarad o gwmpas yr 4 pwynt bwled. So, na i jyst rhoi cyflwyniad i ddechrau ni i dîm y Gymraeg. So mae'r tîm wedi cael ei strwythuro i sicrhau bod ffrydiau gwaith yn rhoi'r cymorth angenrheidiol i ddiwallu anghenion ieithyddol y boblogaeth. So mae'n cynnwys 4 gwasanaeth i gyd i roi cymorth i'r sefydliad o ran gofynion y deddfwriaeth ac i fynd i'r afal ac anghenion ein cleifion. So, yr ffrwd cyntaf o fewn y tîm ydy cydymffurfiad deddfwriaeth. So, wneud saff bod ni yn rhoi cymorth i'r sefydliad o ran cyflawni rhwymoedigaethau o dan fesur y Gymraeg a safona'r Gymraeg. Yr ail wasanaeth sydd ganddo ni yn hybu ac ymgysylltu. So, yn unol â'r egwyddorion sydd ynghlwm wrth gyflawni cynllun 5 mlynedd mwy na geiriau, rydyn ni'n mynd ati'n rhagweithiol i gefnogi gwasanaethau a creu prosiectau a cynlluniau a fydd yn gwella dealltwriaeth ac ymwybyddiaeth o'n diwylliant ni a'r effaith ar ofal a boddhad cleifion. A wedyn yn drydydd mae'n tîm hyfforddiant ni. Mae'n rhaglen hyfforddiant Cymraeg ni'n cael ei theilwra i fynd i'r afel a gofynion gwasanaethau amrywiol ynghyd â rhoi cymorth ychwanegol da ni'n ei dderbyn gan ganolfan dysgu Cymraeg Genedlaethol drwy'n cytundeb Cymraeg gwaith. A wedyn yn ola, yma'n gwasanaethau cyfieithu ni. Mae'n tîm cyfieithu ni'n sicrhau bod y sefydliad yn darparu gwybodaeth ar gyfer cleifion yn ei dewis iaith nhw. Maen nhw hefyd yn darparu cyfieithu ar y pryd mwyn hwyluso dewis iaith mewn lleoliadau clinigol a chorfforaethol. Wedyn, rwan jyst i symud ymlaen i'r 4 pwynt bwled. So, yr un cyntaf ydy dull safonedig ar gyfer cyflawni safona'r Gymraeg. So mae'r safona'r Gymraeg ar waith bellach o fewn y bwrdd iechyd ers y dyddiad gweithredu sef Mai 2019. A mae cynnydd sylweddol wedi wneud yn y bwrdd iechyd ac mae'r dwi fel llwyddog cydymffurfio safona'r Gymraeg yn rhoi cyfarwyddyd ar draws y sefydliad cyfan ar sut i roi'r safonau ar waith, yn ogystal â cefnogi a hwyluso darpariaeth ar lefel sylfaenol. So, dros y flwyddyn dwytha, da ni wedi bod yn gweithio efo'r IHCs dros y flwyddyn ar ffurflen hunan asesu cydymffurfiaeth efo safona'r Gymraeg. So, dechreuon ni dechrau flwyddyn yma gyda IHC y Dwyrain, ac erbyn hyn, da ni wedi derbyn ffurflennu'r Dwyrain ac wedi dadansoddi nhw. Mae'r swyddog cefnogi hefyd wedi bod yn cyfarfod efo adrannau yn rheolaidd yn cynnig cymorth efo cynlluniau gweithredu mwyn gwella cydymffurfiaeth. So mae canlyniadau yr gwaith monitro yna wedi cynnwys yn ein adroddiad blynyddol ni. A wedyn roedd yr ymarfer gwerthuso ma'n rhoi dealltwriaeth ehangach i ni am eu cydymffurfiaeth nhw efo'r safona ac yn galluogi ni i gynllunio ymlaen. Da ni yn y broses rwan o gael enwau cyswllt ar gyfer y canol a'r gorllewin mwyn symud y gwaith yna yn ei flaen. A mi fydd hon yn ddogfen dreigol yr ffurflen fonitro yma, a byddwn ni'n gofyn i bob adran ar draws y gogledd i diweddaru hi bob blwyddyn, fel bod ni'n gallu adrodd ymlaen wedyn i'n swyddfa'r comisiynydd ar ein cydymffurfiaeth ni. So o ran yr ail bwynt bwled, datblygu sgiliau iaith Gymraeg y gweithlu. Rydyn ni'n gwybod be ydy sgiliau iaith, 93.8% o'n gweithlu erbyn hyn, sy'n cael ei gofnodi o fewn system ESR. Ac mae hynna wedyn yn ein galluogi ni i dargedu staff a meysydd penodol o staff ar gyfer hyfforddiant Cymraeg. So mae yna dros 700 o aelodau staff yn cael gwersi Cymraeg mewn rhyw ffurf ar hyn o bryd o fewn Bwrdd Iechyd sydd yn swm anhygoel. Mae'r tîm hyfforddiant wedi cael blwyddyn hynod lwyddiannus yn creu a chyflwyno amrywiaeth o gyrsiau Cymraeg i ddiwallu anghenion ein staff. So, bod y rhan fwyaf o'r addysgu yn digwydd yn rhithiol, mae wedi bod yn galonogol cynnig rhywfaint o sesiynau yn wyneb ar draws Gogledd Cymru gyda grwpiau staff amrywiol. So, dros y flwyddyn dwytha, mae'r tiwtor mewnol wedi cyflwyno cyrsiau ar wahanol lefelau i holl grwpiau staff o lefel mynediad i lefel uwch. Maen nhw wedi teilwra sesiynau'n benodol ar gyfer gwasanaethau penodol. Fel enghraifft, roedd staff yr adran anesthetic yn Ysbyty Gwynedd yn awyddus i ddatblygu sgiliau ei staff y tîm, ac wnaethant darparu rhestr o eiriau ac ymadroddion cyffredin a cyflwynwyd y cwrs i'r tîm fel byddan nhw'n gallu trafod gweithredoedd anesthetig gyda chleifion. Hefyd, creuwyd cwrs penodol ar gyfer derbynyddion hefyd. Mae'r tystysgrif sgiliau iaith hefyd yn cael ei gynnig drwy'r tîm. Mae hwn yn gymhwyster cydnabyddedig ac achrededig gan y Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol a Chydbwyllgor Addysg Cymru. A wedi cael ei ddatblygu i alluogi ymgeiswyr i ennill tystysgrif sy'n dangos i sgiliau iaith Cymraeg nhw a'i gallu nhw i weithio drwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. Mae'r tiwtor hefyd yn hyrwyddo dysgwr y mis bob blwyddyn ac mae hynny'n cael ei cyhoeddi ar tudalen Facebook Dysgwyr Betsy. Hefyd, nath y tiwtoriaid roi enwebiadau ymlaen ar gyfer Eisteddfod Genedlaethol Llun ac Afionydd Dysgwr y Blwyddyn. Wnaeth y tîm adnewyddu contract 12 mis efo'r Ganolfan Dysgu Cymraeg Cenedlaethol mewn perthynas â'r cynllun Cymraeg Gwaith, a mae hwnnw'n cael ei ariannu gan Lywodraeth Cymru. Roedd hyn yn fodd o barhau a chyfleoedd a chydweithio yn ogystal â chyflogi swyddog cymorth ni. Maen nhw'n rhoi cyllid i ni i gyflogi swyddog sy'n rhoi cymorth i'r tiwtor. A mae'r cytundeb yn cynnwys mynediad a sgyrsiau ar-lein ar lefel amrywiol, cyrsiau preswyl yn Nant Gwrtheyrn sydd yn hynod boblogaidd, a cwrs dysgu Cymraeg Llwybr Carlam, ac hefyd maen nhw'n cynnig sesiynau cinio clebran unwaith yr wythnos sy'n rhoi cyfle i ddysgwyr Cymraeg dod at ei gilydd i ymarfer y Cymraeg. So, o ran gwerthuso, mae'r cyrsiau gyd yn cael ei gwerthuso ar ddiwedd bob y carfan a da ni'n cael adborth ar hygyrchedd y cyrsiau, y cynnwys, yr ymagwedd a'r dull cyflwyno. Yr canfyddiadau diweddara yn datgelu bod 94% o'n dysgwyr ni yn hapus iawn gyda'r ddarpariaeth dysgu a mae 100% o'r dysgwyr yn mwynhau dilyn y cyrsiau yn fawr iawn. Un o'ch bwyntiau'r tîm hyfforddiant hefyd ar gyfer y Bwrdd Iechyd oedd cystadleuaeth dysgwr y flwyddyn a chynhalwyd seremoni ar y 7th o Fawrth eleni. So gwahoddwyd staff i enwebu cydweithwyr oedd wedi gwneud argraff arnyn nhw drwy dysgu Cymraeg i safon uchel a defnyddio sgiliau newydd mwyn darparu gwell gwasanaeth i gleifion a defnyddwyr gwasanaeth yng Ngogledd Cymru. So cafwyd cyfanswm o 40 o enwebiadau a gafodd bob un o'r 6 nath gyrraedd yr rhestr fer eu cyfweld a'i ffilmio cyn y seremoni. Eleni cynhaliodd y Ganolfan Dysgu Cymraeg Cenedlaethol digwyddiad dathlu dysgu Cymraeg cyntaf. A nod y digwyddiad oedd cydnabod llwyddiannau'r sector dysgu Cymraeg a'r dysgwyr yn benodol ac i ddathlu a dangos y cynnydd a wnaed tuag at gyflawni strategaeth Llywodraeth Cymru sef 1,000,000 o siaradwyr Cymraeg 2050. So, o blith y cannoedd o gyflogwyr sy'n gysylltiedig â'r cynllun Cymraeg Gwaith, Bwrdd Iechyd Betsy Cadwaladr daeth i'r brig fel enillydd y wobr cydnabyddiaeth arbennig, so oedden ni'n falch iawn o hynny. So nathon ni ennill y wobr yn bennaf a mae'n cynllunio strategol a'n technegau arloesol a blaengar i sicrhau cyfleoedd dysgu Cymraeg i'r gweithlu a'r effaith mae hynny yn ei gael wedyn ar gleifion. So trydydd pwynt bwled, meithrin, diwylliant ac amgylchedd dwyieithog. So mwyn craffu ar berfformiad bwrdd iechyd ac ar geiledd a safon gwasanaethau Cymraeg ar draws y sefydliad, gwnaeth tîm y Gymraeg barhau i gynnal arolygon sicrwydd bob chwarter yn ystod y flwyddyn yma. Mae hyn yn digwydd trwy gyfuniad o arolygon siopwr cudd ac ymweliadau a safleoedd y bwrdd iechyd. Ac mae'r cynllun monitro gwasanaethau dwyieithog yn mesur ansawdd ac argeuledd gwasanaethau Cymraeg mewn ysbytai a meddygfeydd sy'n cael ei rheoli gan y bwrdd iechyd. Pan ail ddechreuodd yr arolygon hyn yn dilyn y pandemig Covid, daeth yn amlwg bod safona wedi llithro yn gyffredinol, ond o gynlyniad i ailgydion y gwaith siopwr cudd, ond da ni unwaith eto'n gweld cynnydd ar draws y safleoedd. O ganlyniad i hyn, aeth aelodau'r tîm Gymraeg ati i gydweithio'n uniongyrchol a rheolwyr a gweinyddwyr perthnasol ar draws Gogledd Cymru yn ystod haf 2023 mwyn canfod gwendida ac i roi camau gweithredu mewn lle. Da ni'n sicrhau bod holl arwyddion yn ddwyieithog. Da ni hefyd yn arolygu gwasanaethau derbynfa a gwasanaethau ffôn fel rhan o'r cynllun siopwr cudd. So fel enghraifft o arfer da, mae Maureen Roberts sydd yn weinyddwr safle ac yn gyfrifol am nifer o ysbytai cymunedol yn ardal y canol, wedi ffocysu ar sicrhau bod arwyddion dwyieithog yn ei lle o fewn yr ysbytai mae hi'n gyfrifol amdanyn nhw, sef ysbyty cymuned Bae Colwyn, Dinbych, Rhuthun ac ysbyty Brenhinol Alexandra yn yr Hill, fel bod nhw'n ei saf bod yr arwyddion i gyd yn ddwyieithog ac yn unol â gofynion y safona. Mae Maureen wedi cadw mewn cysylltiad cyson gyda thîm y Gymraeg ar uned gyfieithu dros y flwyddyn dwythaf mwyn sicrhau bod cymorth perthnasol ar gael i'r holl staff yn y 4 ysbyty cymuned. Yng ngoleuni gwaith diflino Maureen, mae'r gwelliant hwn wedi mynd y tu hwnt i'r arwyddion yn unig gan fod yr adolygiadau siopwr cudd yn diweddara yn dangos bod argeuledd a safon gwasanaethau derbynfa a teleffoni wedi cael ei datblygu'n eang ar y safleoedd yma. Reit, o ran ein gwaith o hyrwyddo'r cynnig rhagweithiol sy'n rhan anatod o strategaeth mwy na geiriau Llywodraeth Cymru, mae'n cynllun dewis iaith ni sy'n defnyddio magneda gyda'r symbol iaith gwaith oren yn parhau i fod ar waith ar nifer o wardiau ar draws Gogledd Cymru. Mae'r magneda yn cael ei gosod uwchben gwlau cleifion sydd yn dangos i unrhyw staff sy'n ymweld â'r wardiau pa gleifion sy'n siarad Cymraeg ac felly ymateb i hynny wrth siarad efo cleifion. Ac yn sgil hyn, mae'n cynllun dewis iaith ni ar rhestr fer yng nghategori wobr gofal teg GIG Cymru yng Ngwobra GIG Cymru 2024. Mae'r cynllun yn sicrhau fel sefydliad yn bod ni'n cynnig gwasanaethau i gleifion yn Gymraeg yn rhagweithiol trwy nodi dewis iaith nhw. Hefyd o ran hyrwyddo diwylliant, yn mis Ionawr 2023, cafodd pecyn e-ddysgu ymwybyddiaeth iaith o'r Gymraeg a grewyd gan tîm Gymraeg Bwrdd Iechyd Beti Cadwaladr ei lansio yn genedlaethol ar ESR. So mae hyn yn rhan o rhaglen hyfforddiant gorfodol, mae'n rhaid i holl staff ei chwblhau ac ailadrodd hynny bob 4 blynedd. Mae'r ffigurau yn dangos bod 87.14% o'r gweithlu wedi cwblhau'r hyfforddiant hwn hyd yma, ac mae hyn uwch lawr targed o 85% ar gyfer unrhyw hyfforddiant gorfodol yn y Bwrdd Iechyd, ac mae'n gynnydd o bron i 20% ers y llynedd. A wedyn yn ola, jyst i sôn chydig bach am y gwaith da ni'n gwneud efo partneriaid. Enwebwyd tîm y Gymraeg, y Bwrdd Iechyd, yn hyrwyddwr gorau'r Gymraeg yn y gweithle yng Ngwobra Partneriaid Gwerthfawr Gyrfa Cymru eleni. So cyflwynwyd y gwobrau cenedlaethol mewn seremoni yn Senedd Cymru ym mis Tachwedd 2023. Roedd yn gyfle i ddathlu ymdrechion cyflogwyr o bob rhan o'r wlad sy'n gweithio mewn partneriaeth efo Gyrfa Cymru i helpu pobl ifanc i baratoi ar gyfer y byd gwaith. Enwebyd tîm y Gymraeg am y gwaith y mae aelodau wedi wneud i ysbrydoli a chymell pobl ifanc i wneud y gorau i sgiliau dwyieithog tra neu hysbysu am gyfleoedd cyflogaeth o fewn y sector iechyd yng Ngogledd Cymru. Ar ôl i'r tîm gyfrannu at nifer o ddigwyddiadau drefnwyd gan Gyrfa Cymru mewn amrywiol ysgolion ar draws y Gogledd, arweiniodd hyn at gydweithio pellach at drefnu taith fawr o amgylch ysgolion uwchradd. Trefnwyd hyn i gyd-fynd ag wythnos y Gymraeg y Bwrdd Iechyd ym mis Hydref y llynedd. A dros gyfnod o 10 diwrnod canhalwyd mwy na 20 sesiwn mewn 2 ar 10 o ysgolion uwchradd cyfrwng Cymraeg a Saesneg ar draws Gogledd Cymru. A prif ddiben y digwyddiadau hyn oedd dysgu disgyblion am bwysigrwydd darpariaeth gwasanaethau gofal iechyd yn Gymraeg a manteision dwyieithrwydd fel sgil cyflogadwyedd yn fwy cyffredinol. So mewn partneriaeth ag aelodau o adran y gweithlu a datblygiad sefydliadol yn y Bwrdd Iechyd a partneriaid o Ysgol Feddygol Gogledd Cymru yn newydd Prifysgol Bangor, mae tîm y Gymraeg wedi creu llyfryn newydd sy'n rhoi gwybodaeth i ddisgyblion ysgol a phobl ifanc am y nifer o gyfleoedd sydd ar gael i weithio'n ddwyieithog o fewn y sector iechyd. So prif ddiben yr adnodd ydy rhoi gwybod i bobl ifanc am y gwahanol fatha o swyddi sydd ar gael o fewn y Bwrdd Iechyd ac am fanteision sgiliau dwyieithog i unigolion. So mae'r llyfryn newydd, so mae yna gopïau i gael ar y stondina drwodd fan os ydych chi eisiau cael golwg. Mae'r llyfryn cynnwys astudiaethau achos, 2 aelod ifanc o staff sy'n gweithio'n ddwyieithog yng Ngogledd Cymru. Yn ogystal â phrofiadau cadarnhaol, mae'n cleifion a teuluoedd wedi cael o ganlyniad i dderbyn gwasanaethau trwy cyfrwng y Gymraeg. Cydweithiodd y Bwrdd Iechyd hefyd â Phrifysgol Wrecsam i gynnal diwrnod addysg rhyngproffesiynol ar gofal a iaith law yn llaw. Trefnwyd y digwyddiad hwn gan y Brifysgol i hyrwyddo dwyieithrwydd o fewn y sector gofal iechyd. Mynychodd myfyrwyr blwyddyn gyntaf ac ail flwyddyn o amrywiaeth y gyrsia gan gynnwys therapi galwadigaethol, nyrsio oedolion a phlant a gwyddorau parafeddygol. So croesawyd siaradwyr gwadd yn ystod y bore gan gynnwys rhai o dîm y Gymraeg a cydlynydd y rhaglen ffrindiau CAMS a physiotherapydd o Ysbyty Cyffredinol Llandudno. A trafodwyd straeon yn ymwneud â chleifion gan ddangos sut mae'r cynnig rhagweithiol yn chwarae rhan allweddol yn llwybr gofal cleifion. So oedd adborth ar gyfer y digwyddiad yn wych gyda nifer o fyfyrwyr yn tystio bod ganddynt well dealltwriaeth o pam bod iaith yn bwysig i gleifion. A rydyn ni'n gobeithio cynnal y berthynas yma rhwngthon ni a Prifysgol Wrecsam drwy gymryd rhan mewn digwyddiadau tebyg yn y dyfodol. Felly, jyst i orffen, da ni wedi cael blwyddyn llwyddiannus iawn ac mi fyddwn ni'n adeiladu ar hyn dros y flwyddyn nesaf. So cwpl o enghreifftiau ar hyn sydd ganddon ni ar y gweill ydy gweithio hefo gofal sylfaenol. Mi fyddwn ni'n cael tudalen ar wefan hwb gofal sylfaenol mwyn rhannu hyrwyddo'r gofnogaeth allwn ni fel tîm y Gymraeg ei roi i ddarparwyr gofal sylfaenol o ran y Gymraeg. Hefyd, rydyn ni wedi cael ein gwahodd i fod yn rhan o brosiect NICO gyda'r Ysgol Feddygol Newydd, lle byddwn ni'n cydweithio i ddarparu sesiynau ymwybyddiaeth iaith gyda myfyrwyr newydd yr ysgol. Byddwn ni hefyd yn cynnal llu o ddigwyddiadau yn ystod ein wythnos y Gymraeg sy'n digwydd yn flynyddol yn yr ail wythnos ym mis Hydref. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch yn iawn i Alaw am roi crynodeb i ni o waith arbennig mae tîm y Gymraeg yn gwneud ac maen nhw wedi cael cydnabyddiaeth teilwng yn ystod y flwyddyn. Felly llongyfarchiadau a diolch i bawb. Bydd gen i gyfle i sôn mwy am y Gymraeg fory yn y cyfarfod bwrdd sy'n edrych ar y adroddiad blynyddol os ydych chi edrych ar yr agenda. Ond o'n i jyst eisiau pwysleisio un y ddau o bethau o ran y Gymraeg. Mae y gwaith o gwmpas y Gymraeg yn mwy na mater iaith i fi. Mae'n ymwneud â lliwio pwy ydyn ni fel Bwrdd Iechyd. Mae gennym ni 41% o boblogaeth ein hadal ni yn siaradwyr Cymraeg. Tua hanner ganran yna yn siaradwyr Cymraeg yn y bwrdd iechyd. Felly, os da ni am wasanaethu boblogaeth, mae yna gyfle i ni wneud rhywbeth o gwmpas hynny, dwi'n tybio. Dau beth sydyn ni nodi. Beth bynnag yw eich gwybodaeth o ran y Gymraeg, defnyddiwch chi gymaint ag y gallwch chi. Beth bynnag, os mae dim ond yn bore da, neu nos da weithiau, beth bynnag, defnyddiwch y Gymraeg, oherwydd dyna ydy'r peth mwyaf gallwn ni wneud efo unrhyw iaith, ydy i defnyddio hi. A dyna'r anogaeth dwi'n rhoi i ni gyd o ran defnyddio'r Gymraeg gymaint ag y gallwn ni, oherwydd eto, beth bynnag yw ein gallu ieithyddol, gallwn ni gyd fod yn bencampwyr dros y Gymraeg a helpu datblygiad ein gwasanaeth iechyd a'r ffordd dyn ni'n ymwneud â'n boblogaeth a cleifion. Felly diolch yn fawr iawn i Alaw a llongyfarchiadau eto i'r tîm sydd wedi gweithio mor galed. Ymlaen i gyflwyniad nesaf gan Angela Wood sydd yn bennaeth nyrsio. Angela, it's your time to give us the annual quality report, I think. So over to you. Diolch yn iawn.
Diolch, David. Bwrdd da pawb, good morning and welcome everybody. Angela Wood dwi, cwfawyd o gweithredol nyrsio a baidraigaeth. So I'm Angela Wood, I'm the Exec Director of Nursing and Midwifery. So I've been asked to present the annual quality report, and this is our first year for an annual quality report. We had legislation from Welsh Government in April 23 that identified a duty of quality and a duty of candour that we had to put into place. Previously, we'd presented as part of our annual report. So I'm really pleased that we've actually got our quality report. It's going to board for presentation tomorrow. There's been a lot of work surrounding it, and the presentations that we've heard so far this morning actually bring it to life. This is what we're talking about on a daily basis, how we're making sure quality is across the organisation. And I want to share some of the developments that we've had over the last year with you. Sorry, I'll just skip on. I'm going the wrong way. The button is the wrong way. It's probably because it's upside down. There we go. Sorry. It was upside down. Okay, so as identified, health and social care, quality and engagement, we identified we needed a duty of quality, a duty of candour. So that's making sure that we're open and honest with our patients, with the public, making sure when things go wrong that we share the information, share that what we've learned, to make sure that we put things right by learning. And for the purpose of the Health Board duties, we have to do reports through to Welsh Government, but we also report up through the board, making sure that we've got that opportunity to discuss, identify where we need to improve and share that learning across the organisation. The report is an opportunity for us to share what's been happening and the best practice that's happening across the Health Board, but also to share those lessons and identify the outcomes for patients that we've had by changing things and putting different things into place. So it's a really important document. It will provide you with information about statistics of improvements, about our outcomes, but also examples as our orthopaedic colleagues and learning disabilities around what we're doing and how we're making improvements across the Health Board. So it's been a collaborative approach to develop this quality report. We've been working with partners to identify where we feel what we need in it. Our independent members have been contributing via a quality experience committee. We've been making sure that union colleagues, that colleagues across the organisation have been able to showcase some of the work that they've been undertaking to allow us to provide a broad range of quality improvements, show where we've been going and where we're going for the future. So our quality journey, everybody is aware that quality was one of the areas that was identified when we were put into special measures again. It's something that we've been identifying that we need to improve on, that we need consistency approach across the whole of the organisation, and that we need staff to be proud of what they're delivering, shout about it, but also take into consideration the feedback that we get, that we maybe not have got things right the first time, and how we make sure that that's taken forward. We need to make sure that our annual quality report is reflective of the year's work, but also stretches us. And as part of special measures, we had stretch targets around quality. We had identification that we need to learn more, that we had to be an organisation that shares that learning across, that our incidents, complaints that weren't necessarily in the right place from a time-wise perspective, from the quality of what we were providing and the assurances we were giving to our colleagues, to the public, to the patients and to the coroners and external partners, it wasn't where we needed it to be. So the focus for the last year has been improving quality. It's about improving our lessons learned, making sure we're sharing that across the organisation, putting systems and processes in place to make it easier for staff to be able to do what they do best, look after our patients. So quality focus, as I say, we've been working on a number of initiatives, and if you read the annual quality report when it is published on our website, you'll be able to see some of those. But I just wanted to pick out some of the work that is underpinning the foundations of what we're trying to do across the health board. So the first thing is our integrated concerns policy. So we had feedback from the public, from our patients around the length of time they were waiting for responses, from the quality of the responses they were getting when they received them. And we got feedback from our coroners around them wanting the reports more timely and making sure that we were covering everything and having our lessons learned disseminated. So Carol, when she arrived as Chief Exec, we worked together to identify how we were going to change things, how we were going to stop silo working between teams, and make sure all of the opportunities to collect the information of potentially what went wrong or what wasn't satisfactory was be pulled together. So I'm really pleased that in July we agreed at a board that we would have an integrated concerns policy that has been signed off and a toolkit to support it. And my teams on the 1st of September took it live across the whole of Betsy, across all IHCs and divisions. So that's the patient experience team, the complaints team, the incident team, mortality, medical examiners, inquest team, all working together. We've got a hub that meets on a daily basis to bring through all of the incidents and make sure that we've got a coordinated approach to get one report that tells a story, shows the lessons and then shares it across the organisation. We are embedding at the moment. 1st of September was only a few weeks ago, but we've had some real good feedback across the organisation and from colleagues. We're encouraging communication with families and patients. We're encouraging conversations early on in the system so that we can make sure that we're capturing everything that people need to be aware of. And I'm really pleased this is a really good piece of work that we can make sure we've got sustained progress across the organisation in this area. The next is our learning repository. So we have learning that happens across the organisation on a daily basis, and we also then had missed opportunities. So something might happen in one of our sites in Wrexham maybe, and then something may potentially happen in another site because we haven't shared the learning, and we wanted that to stop. So we've developed a learning repository supported by our digital colleagues to identify capturing that learning and be able to disseminate across the whole of the organisation. You can understand 20,000 staff getting that message out to the appropriate people in a timely manner, making sure that they've received it, understood it, disseminated it and shared it with colleagues is quite a task in an organisation this big. This learning repository is really, really forward thinking, using digital technology and allowing us to share that. We've also got an organisation learning forum that sits behind that, where teams come together and look at what we need to learn, how we need to learn it. And I'm really pleased this week we've had our first bulletin across the whole of Betsy, identifying some of the improvements and the outcomes we've had from some of the learning that we've achieved in the last 12 months. So that's really, really positive. Our quality dashboard. So for us to be able to identify where we are, where we've got incidents, where things are happening. So we do have falls happen in the organisation. We do have pressure ulcers that occur. Every organisation in the NHS has that. What we want to do is make sure we know where they are, why they've happened, and improve it to make sure we can stop the things that we can stop to make them not happen again. And having that information at the fingertips is very difficult, especially in an organisation this big. So again, our digital teams have been working with us, and we now have a live dashboard that identifies our quality indicators across the whole of the organisation. So myself or Carol or David can at fingertips go into the system and identify how many falls we've had, how many pressure ulcers, how many incidents have we had, how many infections have we had, what is happening around them. And every ward manager and department manager can drill down to their area and understand where they are, so they can speak to their teams about it. And then we share the learning. So we have a falls collaborative that meets to reduce the numbers of falls by applying best practice. I meet on a quarterly basis with the teams across the IHCs and divisions to discuss the work and the progress that's been made. We've just established a pressure ulcer executive meeting on a quarterly basis that feeds in from the collaborative for pressure ulcers. And that work is really, really important. And we'll be able to now, with the dashboard, plot where we are, what initiatives have been put in place and what has worked. So that's really positive for us and a fantastic achievement for the teams. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about in the focus is our quality management system. So in July, we had approval at board to have a quality management, May, we had a quality management framework approved at board. And that was the concept of how we wanted to manage quality, what we needed to do around the planning for quality, making sure our services were planned to ensure that they got the best quality of what they were delivering. It was in the right place, the right time, with the right resources to support it. Our controls in place and our assurances. So what information are we using? Are we using information from Royal College reviews, from our patient experience surveys, from the outcome measures following a hip replacement? How do we feed that into what we're doing? And then if that isn't quite right, our improvement, so our transformation improvement team, how they can support to make sure that we're getting things in place. And then we go back to our planning, we can see that those changes have been made, and then we can tweak it through our processes as we go through. So that was the framework, and that was conceptual. As part of our quality duty, that was an expectation from Welsh Government to have that in place. We're now taking it to its next step, and we're piloting within vascular surgery and with urology the quality management system. So we have gap analysis, we have self-assessments, we've got a toolkit that we're applying, and we're undertaking very quick cycles of improvement to identify how we can get that information and we're able to present it. At the end of that, we're hoping that every service in the organisation has got a quality manual that identifies what planning has been undertaken, what controls are in place, where we're getting the assurances from, and what improvements have been put in place, and what the outcomes of those were to inform planning. So we've got our pilots in place at the moment. They started the 1st of September. I've just recruited, I think, an orthopaedic colleague to be one of our fast followers for our quality management system. But there are a number of colleagues, maternity being one of my corporate teams being another, to make sure we can change anything within the system that we need to ensure we're getting the outcomes. It's a real massive piece of work for the organisation. It's not going to be quick. Organisations that have tried to do it are still working on it in 10 years, but we can refine it as we go along, and we can make sure that quality is the heart of everything that we do. Yes, we need to be efficient. Yes, we need to make sure that we're meeting performance, but the heart of it has got to be quality, and that's really exciting for us. So next steps. I've told you the kind of initiatives we're undertaking. We have to have our 3-year plan. We're really into that now. We're in our planning phases for the next areas of improvement, what we're trying to focus on. Our clinical services plan will be informed by our quality management system. We are choosing our services to take that forward. It's really an exciting time for us. I think we've got some results this year that'll spur us on to make sure that we're doing what we need to next year. And I encourage you to look at the quality initiatives, look at next year's report, and just show the journey we've on for Betsy. Thank you.
Diolch iawn i Angela, ac hefyd diolch i'r tîm sydd wedi bod yn clwm ar gwaith bwysig yna. Cyflwyniad nesaf ydy'r cyflwyniad am ein gyllideb, a dwi am wahodd Russell to come up to give that presentation. Over to you, Russell. Warm welcome. Diolch yn iawn.
Diolch David. So Russell Collicott dwi, so cyfarwyddwr gyffredol, Clethu Dastro dwi. So I'm the Interim Executive Director of Finance. It's an absolute pleasure to be here again. I was here last year and to be able to be part of this group as we present back through on the performance for the year within the Health Board. I'm going to take you through some highlights of the financials, but I'd also like to thank as well, of course, and take this opportunity to express my thanks to the wider organisation, but also our partner organisations who've played such a part in all of this. And my personal thanks to the team who've done such a fabulous job as well. So if I may, I'll walk you through the presentation. Hopefully go in the right direction. There's only two others, so. Oh, there we go. That looks familiar. That's good. So first of all, just to give you an insight as to how performance is assessed, really. So there's the first one is that we will only spend what we earn over a 3-year period. So the allocations we receive, that's all we will spend over any given rolling 3-year period. The second one is that we produce a medium-term plan. That's a 3-year plan, effectively, going forward. So those are our two statutory obligations. We do have some other targets, other financial targets. So pay 95% of non-NHS staff. That's invoices for services, goods that have been provided by third parties to the Health Board. Clearly, that's really important so we can transact cash within the local system. And obviously, individuals require that cash to keep their businesses moving. So a really important target for us. We have to live within a closing cash balance as well. So there is a predetermined target that's issued back out to the Health Board. So we report on how we've performed against those. We also have to effectively not spend more than our capital limit as well. So we'll talk a little bit about capital. We have to spend the most we can not spend around it is 500,000, but we can't spend more. So again, we'll show our performance around some of those things. What the Health Board does, it actually submits draft accounts. It also submits its final accounts. The reason it's two-phased is so the Health Board prepares its accounts and shares its position. Then we have Audit Wales colleagues who come in and give that assurance, actually, that the accounts represent a true and fair view and the transactions and reported position can be relied upon. So a really important third-party aspect that comes into play. And I'll just say before I flick over that 15th of July was the submission deadline. It was brought forward, and I'm pleased to say that all of our parties managed to get our accounts within those national timeframes at that shorter date as well. So it was a really big ask. We didn't go back to the beginning, so that's good. So what did Audit Wales say? So they came in and had a look at our accounts. That's an attempt at 2 big green ticks on the side on the left. So hopefully they sort of resonate with you. But the two initial findings are they form an opinion. It's called a qualified or an unqualified opinion. You want an unqualified audit opinion. That's the one we strive for. And in terms of our figures and our numbers, they came back and gave us an unqualified audit opinion. So a clean bill of health. We've reported our financial transactions absolutely correctly. And there was no change from our draft submission to final submission. So the figures we sent in were those that Audit Wales absolutely gave assurance that they were the true and fair position of the Health Board. So fabulous achievement there. There was a regulatory opinion as well. This means, is there anything within there that we haven't quite complied with, and therefore they're given further opinion, qualified or unqualified. Unfortunately, on this year, we've received a qualified opinion. That is fairly common across health boards because the key first statutory duty, remember, is to deliver a break even, not spend more than you earn over that 3-year rolling period. A lot of health boards have struggled with that. So there has been a regulatory qualification opinion issued. We also had a director whose remuneration was set at a level that was above what was designated to the board to take. That was back in 22-23, and that post carried on slightly into the new financial year. So again, that was deemed to be another reference point for a qualification. So our regulatory opinion is qualified for those two matters. That's not dissimilar to a lot of other health boards, but the important one for me and for all the accountants in the room is that the numbers are the numbers. The draft never moved, final submission went in, and we got an unqualified audit opinion and that clean bill of health. So we know we're saying what's happened. What actually happened is the next question, isn't it? So we've got sort of 3 or 4 figures there. So really just to emphasise where we've ended up. So our revenue expenditure, there's some other expenditure in there, but our revenue expenditure through Welsh Government, 2.136 billion. I have to keep reminding myself that's not millions, that's billions. You know, it's an enormous sum of money. We actually spent 2.160, so we were £24.4 million pounds deficit. Those that remember last year, we actually set a deficit plan, and our deficit plan was 34 million circa. And so that represents actually an improvement on our original plan submission for the previous financial year. So that was really good, successful performance. And that's why we need to be very congratulatory of our position. All health boards in Wales are really struggling in the financial climate, and others had significant deficits as well. We managed to improve on our deficit position from our plan, and some people didn't. I would say on capital expenditure, as I mentioned before, 34.5 million. We spent 34.3, so we're £200,000 below. Dylan's thinking, I can see him in the audience thinking there's some more computers we could have had. In terms of our payments, we did pay by value 97%, but by number it was 94.4%. So that was unfortunate. We were just below that 95% threshold, but I'll talk a little bit more about that after. And again, I've put that amber, but you can see that is so close to getting over the line. Our cash was in the right position, right in the middle of our targeted position, and the preparation of the medium-term plan. We didn't prepare that 3-year plan. Again, that's not dissimilar to other health boards. Just to re-emphasise what that rolling position and being really open and transparent with you as audience members. So 24.4 million deficit. The previous 2 financial years reported a small surplus. So our cumulative position is that £23.7 million as a deficit. And that means we didn't hit that key first financial duty. I will keep re-emphasising that is an improvement on our original plan, and actually was a really massive effort by everybody. So it was really well done. I'll very briefly take you through the categories of expenditure. So 2 things really. One is, what do we spend it on? What kind of services? So these are very headline figures, but you can see from the top down, we've got mental health, learning disabilities. We've got our second category, which is specialist services, where we commission, so we pay into the ambulance service, for example. We also contract with Welsh providers as well, so Liverpool, Countess of Chester. That expenditure is built into that section. We have women's services and cancer services, which are PAN-BCU. And again, they're sort of mapping at roughly the same levels as prior years. We then have diagnostics, public health, central functions. We've got HR function. We've got digital function, of course, digital data. And then we've got this big chunk at the bottom, and effectively that's our integrated health community. So effectively that's our 3 main providers with their associated services within those local economies. So that's roughly how that money is carved out. This is slightly slicing that data by a different lens. So this is what have we actually spent it on. So this is more subjective focus, so pay, non-pay. And you can see there, again, the percentages, even though the level of expenditure has grown year on year, the percentages within each of these categories remains fairly consistent, actually. So non-pay is predominantly it's medical devices, so surgical supplies, drugs, secondary care drugs. Within the pay bands, we've got massive clinical workforce, of course, and the majority of that is our clinical workforce, nurses, doctors, allied health professionals. And then we move on, we've got specialist services, continuing healthcare, where colleagues look after patients out in the community. And then the final one is, of course, primary care. And that also includes medicines, prescribing in the local community as well. A little bit about what we used our capital resource for. And I think just referring back to the opening introduction, really, I mean, clearly we are looking for additional resources to support our state infrastructure, and capital is very scarce. It might be quite difficult for people to pick that up from the back, but some key headlines: £34.3 million. We spent about £4.4 million on leased assets. So the majority of that actually is managed contracts for renal services. So, but there are some buildings that we also occupy through lease provision, and we also have leased vehicles through pooled car use as well. So they're all reported through lease expenditure. The majority of our expenditure is split into two. It's effectively expenditure on assets we own, but there's an All Wales Capital Programme allocation, which is specific. So those are allocations that Welsh Government are asking us to specifically use that money for. And then there's discretionary, which does what it says on the can, really. It's at our discretion as to how we use it. And we've compartmentalised that within the allocations there. We've got IT, of course, laptop servers, the scopes, devices, medical equipment, as you would imagine, replacing that as we go. Estate infrastructure, about £8 million. It's not a lot really for the level and size of scope we have. So, but we have managed to refurbish a number of our ward accommodations through that programme. There's EFA, which is Estates Funding Advisory Board allocations. That is sort of central government as well, really. So it's a government allocation. And we've used a lot of that for fire prevention works within the current financial year. There's some diagnostic work, of course, ultrasound machines, and we've got ED and minor injury unit that we spent on other. And of course, as we've already mentioned, it'd be wrong to, with us being in Llandudno, not to mention the expenditure on the orthopaedic hub that is currently set to open around May of 2025. So that continues. I will just talk about the numbers here and the payments. So I do think this is important for our local economy in transacting the cash through the system. So you can see there's a lot of numbers on that slide, but essentially we've paid about 420,000 invoices. So that means we've paid essentially we pay 8,000 invoices a week. So by the time we finish this AGM, we'll have paid 700 invoices for services provided to us. By the end of the day, probably 1,600, 1,700 invoices will have been transacted. So that's quite phenomenal when you map that through. And to do all of that within 30 days of processing and receipt of an approved order and invoice is pretty incredible, really. So, but that's what keeps the cash flowing in the system. And we are a major part of expenditure within the system. So really good work there. I know what you're thinking, we're getting close to the end now. Summary conclusions, come on, a few. So what I would just say, really, it has been a fabulous year. I think everyone has engaged with the agenda within the Health Board. We've heard about some fabulous ideas. I've got the value sustainability lead at the back who will be linking in with you later, I'm sure, about all the ways we can be more efficient as we move forward, but to the benefit of patients, not to the detriment. And I think that's a really important message. Our returns went in, we hit the national requirements, our deficit position outturn was better than our original plan, and not many can be putting themselves in that place. So a great position, true and fair view, clean bill of health, all the numbers, Audit Wales, absolutely assured that the figures we've submitted represent the actual transactions and the true and fair view of those transactions. And then we've hit the capital, and I think we've still done a fabulous job on making sure we transact the cash with our local suppliers for services and goods. So I think we've had a really successful year. There's a little bit of a note really on the financial plan going into the new year. Clearly the financial climate is still incredibly challenging. Many health boards are really feeling the pressure around delivery. We have set a 19.8 million deficit budget for the year for 24-25. Clearly that will not hit the first key duty again. If we achieve that plan, we will still be in breach of that key duty. But that is the plan we are targeting to deliver. We have secured £82 million. So we had £82 million for 3 years that finished in 23-24. Welsh Government allowed us to receive that resource again into 24-25. That is built into our plan. And then to deliver our plan, we've got about a £48 million savings ask, which is a challenge, of course, but we've got some great innovation that will help us get along that road. And then the carrot, I guess, is that if we deliver that plan, I won't say when we deliver that plan, sorry, be more positive, assertive, positive. When we deliver that plan, of course, then there is the potential for that £82 million then to be made recurrent. So that means we have it for 25, 26 and every year after then as well. So there is a massive, massive opportunity for us in the current financial year. And you'll be pleased to know that's the end of my presentation. Diolch, thank you very much.
Diolch yn iawn for all those highlights, and a great thanks to the team. And it's not just about the pounds, shillings and pence on the page, as it were. It's about what we do with the money. And there's a lot of work gone on over the past 12 months to look at return on investment, what we're investing in, and to make decisions based on clinical need and what is best for patient outcomes. So really grateful for everybody who's been involved. That diolch yn fawr iawn i'r tîm I gyd sydd wedi gwneud gwaith aruthrol dros y flwyddyn ac yn mynd I barhau I wneud, dwi'n gwybod, felly llongyfarchiadau a diolch yn fawr iawn. Dyn ni chydig yn hwyr, ond mae gennym ni gyfle am gwestiynau, ac cyn I ni gael yn taflu allan o'r stafell, dwi am roi cyfle I rhai gwestiynau. Mae yna un o ddau o gwestiynau wedi cyrraedd ymlaen llaw. Just checkio, ydy Mr Neil Anderson efo ni? Mr Neil Anderson, are you with us today in person? Os ddim, dwi am gyfeirio at gwestiwn Mr Neil Anderson, so wedi gofyn, Mr Neil Anderson has asked, what is the absolute maximum length of time our children should be waiting to see an orthodontist? Very topical question, of course, and we will send you the full answer. I'm just going to mention some of the issues that we have been addressing. We, of course, are aware of waiting times, and we do our utmost to look at prioritisation of clinical need, the orthodontic assessment and treatment capacity associated with workforce vacancies, and there is a requirement for us to involve associated specialties such as maxillofacial and restorative and others in order to look at the waiting times and those specialist pathways. Just to note also that additional funding to the tune of £100,000 has been awarded within this financial year to try and help tackle those waiting times, and we are also going out to tender to procure further orthodontic services to the value of about £750,000, and also we are putting incentive packages together to recruit what are termed hard to fill positions in secondary care. But that full answer will come to you, Mr Anderson. Yr ail gwestiwn sydd wedi dod ymlaen llaw wedi gan Mr Williams. Mae Mr Williams efo ni heddiw, a dyn ni wedi cael sgyrsiau dros y blynyddoedd, Mr Williams, a gyda Carol, mae Mr Williams wedi codi mater sy'n wneud a'i triniaeth gafodd o rai blynyddoedd yn ôl, a dwi ddim yn fynd I fanylion ynglyn â hynny heddiw, oherwydd byddwn ni'n enwi pobl. A dwi eisiau sgoi hynny, ond mae drafodaeth yn barhau a byddwn ni'n sgwennu atoch chi gyda'r ateb llawn i'r hyn dych chi wedi codi. A diolch fawr iawn I chi am ddod heddiw ato ni o Ynys Môn. Mae bob amser yn braf eich croesawu chi I gyfarfodydd o'r bwr iechyd. Felly mae gen ni gyfle I unrhyw un arall sydd eisiau gofyn cwestiwn heddiw. Yn arbennig os nad ydych chi wedi gofyn cwestiwn o'r blaen, ac yn arbennig os mae'n ymwneud â'r gwaith sydd wedi cael ei gyflwyno, gewch chi holi unrhyw beth, wrth gwrs gewch chi, ond mi fysa'n ddifyr fysa dilyn rhai o'r themau sydd wedi cael ei cyflwyno heddiw. Gai hefyd bwysleisio, nid yn unig I ni sydd yma yn bresennol, ond rhai sydd yn gwylio ar-lein, Gewch chi gysylltu efo ni unrhyw bryd, a mae nifer o bobl yn gwneud hynny. Peidiwch ag aros am gyfarfod ffurfiol i geisio codi rhywbeth, gewch chi gysylltu efo ni unrhyw amser drwy e-bost neu gan ddefnyddio'r post arferol. Mae yna gyfle i chi godi materion ac mae yna wasanaethau, wrth gwrs, os ydych chi un o'r cleifion, mae yna wasanaethau i gefnogi chi os oes gyda chi unrhyw gwestiwn yn y cyd-destun yna. Felly, unrhyw gwestiwn ydych chi'n dymuno codi heddiw, os gwelwch yn dda. Anybody? We have a roving microphone. Tracy. Microphone arrives with you.
Thank you. I've got a question for Noel. Sorry, Sean, not Noel. It's a question about our social responsibility as a health board, and I just wondered, Sean, whether we provide either work experience placements or paid work for people with learning disabilities ourselves. If we don't, I can imagine a number of opportunities where we could, such as maintaining gardens, some admin duties, and obviously, depending on people's abilities, they might be able to do different work to that as well. But I just wondered, do we or could we?
Sean to respond to that.
I wasn't expecting questions. So yeah, obviously it's part of the partnership board. One of the main drivers is employment for adults with disabilities. They've just released the new plan. I think it was yesterday. There was some presentation that I wasn't able to attend, but it is something that as a health board we look at across the board. There's other schemes that run away from learning disability services that look at people accessing work. I think, interestingly, I think the mistake is going down that pathway of what people have historically done. So gardening is, a lot of adults with learning disabilities don't want to garden. And I'm not being dismissive at all. I think it's just thinking about, oh, good, you set me up. I like that. We looking at different opportunities. And I think the Health Check Champions is something that I'm really engaged with and really proud of. And I'm really glad they're coming to the scene as people as part of that project. They're coming to the staff awards. So I think there's more of that. But yeah, I think the health board is doing a lot more than just us as learning disability services looking at that. But it is a priority, yeah. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. And before bringing Helen in, I'm trying to look frantically at my calendar to note when I attended an event in Flintshire recently, and there were events in other parts of the health board working with local authorities to provide those opportunities for young people in particular. I think it's something that not far off, about 300 people across the health board region working in partnership with local authorities who have those opportunities, and they are absolutely fantastic. I had the honour of being part of a ceremony recognising the achievements over the last couple of months. I can't remember when. I was trying to find it. I haven't been able to find it. But Angela, if you wanted to come in on that as well.
Thanks, David. I was going to reiterate that. So we do have about 300 across the organisation that we're working with local authorities. There's also other opportunities. I saw colleagues in practice in Mould Hospital a couple of months ago, which was really encouraging, and the work was amazing. The added value that was brilliant. We're also looking at our volunteer strategy at the moment, and one of those things we'll be working with communities to identify volunteer opportunities. So we'll be able to link in and identify those. So there is opportunities across, without a doubt.
Absolutely. And one of the things we have to remind ourselves, we are the major employer in this region. We have 20,000 people working for us, so we have that responsibility, as you absolutely raised, Tracy. Very good point. Rhywun arall, unrhyw gwestiwn gan rhywun arall. We go to David first. David,
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
over to you.
I have a question for Angela. Given the presentation that Prithan and Edwin gave earlier, I think it showed the value of taking a look in the mirror at what you do, stepping outside and analysing if there's something we can do better. And sometimes it's the blindingly obvious. And I've recently had some interactions with staff at Ysbyty Gwynedd for a number of different reasons, 2 different departments. And each time I do ask them if, you know, if you could have a word with Angela and David, what would you say to them? And in terms of the dashboard and quality, one of the things you sort of say to somebody is, well, what would you do if you could do something? And some of the responses are blindingly obvious. Some of them are so insightful, they're brilliant. And it's just something that in the interactions that I've had, every time I spoke to a new clinician, I just said, what would you say? And there's some brilliant ideas out there. And I'm just wondering if in terms of the quality dashboard and putting things right, you've actually asked staff on the work floor if they've got any ideas about how to improve quality.
David, and whilst the microphone is coming over, that is a really great point, because it's one thing we emphasize is that we have a resource. We have 20,000 people working, and there's a real danger. We lock ourselves in an offices, remote offices as well, with no contact with the 20,000 or our patients. So we've got an ambition to connect with people who deliver services, and also equally to connect with those who use services in order to inform, improve, and help us ensure we've got the best possible services. And the learning we can get, those of us in positions who shape policies and so on, is definitely from those who deliver service and those who use our services. But Angela, perhaps you can talk about how we can feed that into our strategies and processes and around quality in particular.
Yeah, thanks for that, David. So we're changing the way we're doing things around engagement with our staff. And as you say, they know the answers. So why wouldn't we utilise the information and the ideas that have come up? So as part of the integrated concerns policy, it was delivered and developed by staff. It wasn't the board saying this is what we need to do. It was identified how we could do it differently, how we could make lives easier on the floor. If you're responding to a complaint or you're investigating something, if you're sharing the learning, how do we do it? So that is kind of the ethos. I think the quality management system for the services will allow us to have those conversations, because the gap analysis and the self-assessments will be done by the staff on the ground, rather than it being identifying that I know what's happening with vascular or urology. Certainly it's the nurses, the domestics on the ward, the consultants who know what is happening. So we are doing that. I instigated when I first arrived a ward manager, head of nursing, on a matron meeting that I meet monthly. We have a formal business meeting for the first half, and then I kick everybody out and just say what's going on and what can we do. So that works really, really well. But that's kind of the ethos, the culture, the change across the organisation, that we want everybody to be involved in making the place better, making sure that we're efficient, we've got fantastic quality, and that our performance is where it needs to be. So if we ask a clerk in an outpatients department, how do we get more patients through on a day, they'll tell us how we do it. It won't necessarily be the divisional manager who's telling them to put extra patients on the list. They'll know what holds it up and what is the issue. So we are actually transforming what we're doing and speaking to people in a different way, David.
Diolch yn iawn. Mike, oedd gen ti gwestiwn, dwi'n meddwl, Mike Parrish, sydd yn aelod o'r bwrdd. Dos at y ti, Mike.
Diolch fawr, Cadeirydd. Dwi'n gofyn y cwestiwn yma ar ran rhywun arall o'n methu bod yma. I'm asking this question on Mr. Philip L. Jones from Wrexham, who's leads the Wrexham prostate cancer kind of group. And he'd asked me to inquire as to whether what's happening with robotic surgery, in as much as that, and it was my understanding as well that the facility that's being installed in Bangor would be used for radical prostatectomy, etc. And there doesn't seem to be, as far as I'm aware, any evidence of that so far. And what is the expectation? So those were his concerns. Diolch.
Diolch yn iawn. I think maybe turn to Carol to respond, but we know of that work in Ysbyty Gwynedd around robotics that has been really, really inspiring and have completed some great things. But Carol, perhaps you can tell us a bit about what the future of that looks like.
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks, Mike, and on behalf of that colleague. So it's really clear that robotic surgery is going to be part of the future. Lots of conversations about urology. There's a urology link today about how do we build and sustain, top class urology services in North Wales. Now, we have had we have some staff vacancies, which has been a real challenge in terms of trying to plot out that path to the future. So urology services are stretched. We're currently working with other organisations around urology, but bringing forward that longer term sustainable plan about where will robotic surgery feature in North Wales is going to be key. I've chatted with a urologist just a couple of weeks ago, talking about doctors in training now actually being trained on the robot. So before too long, it won't be an innovative development, it will be a standard development. And that's the work and that's the focus. And I'm pretty sure that will come through the QMS as one of the both gaps, if you like, in terms of gap analysis, but the ambition for improvement. Now, there'll be lots of discussions, I'm sure, about which robot and where it should go, but we'll get to that. But it is going to be very clear that robots will play a key part in the surgical procedures for the future. We know that from orthopedics and other specialties are using robots as well to help assist in surgery. So it's going to be here to stay, but we need to move forward on that with the urology colleagues.
And together with AI and the digital innovations, the future landscape is going to be completely different. And we want to be at the forefront of that, of course we do. Diolch yn iawn. Os yna unrhyw un arall, na ganiatau un cwestiwn arall, os oes rhywun, mae yna rhywun yn y cem, dwi'n meddwl, efo llaw i fyny. Yep. Question to our colleague at the back, and I know who you are, but perhaps I'll let you introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Hello, everybody. My name's Neil Windsor. I'm the Programme Director for Value and Sustainability for the Health Board. Question I wanted to ask anybody at the front really was piggybacking on Prash and Pritham's excellent presentation. How do we as a health board get better at spreading really good practice? I can think of, off the top of my head, probably 50 initiatives where we've got national and international recognition and hosted visits from care teams all over the world to the health board for some really, really, really good practice that we've initiated, but we've struggled to spread it internally within the health board. I'm just wondering how we get better at spreading really good practice.
Yeah, really good point. And I'm sure Carol will address that. But I was discussing this a little bit with Helen yesterday. Helen, we were talking about everywhere I go, I hear about all these good things that are going on, but I'm not sure if everybody else is aware of it. So I think there is something about this, in particular, the health board, our size and the way we operate. So we've got a chief exec who's going to solve that and is going to come up with an answer. Carol.
Along with 20,000 other colleagues. I'm standing up so I can see you, Neil. Do you know, this is one of the really challenging things for the NHS, not just here in North Wales, but everywhere. I think some of the research was saying it takes sort of 20 years for something to start from idea to being everywhere. That's simply too long for us as an NHS, but certainly here in North Wales. So I'm going to point to strategic objective number 5 in our annual plan. I should do a survey of who knows what that is, but that's about creating a learning organisation, an environment for learning. That learning is about when things don't go well, that's for sure, but that learning is also about where things go well and how we translate that into different parts of our organisation. Now, I know you're getting a lot of spotlight today, so sorry, colleagues, but I always ask clinical colleagues, so do you work across? Do you share these ideas? do you, because different people have different skills and expertise. And I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot of the answers, and then a little bit disappointed by some, not orthopedics. You can see the collaboration there. But we've got to encourage that, and that's through our systems, our processes, our conversations. And I think we've got to give permission to people to go and spread the word, but also go and find out what's happening elsewhere in our own health board as well as internationally, and bring that in, adapt and adopt. So not everything will work the same in every place, but where there's a need to vary, then vary it for it to suit locally. So Neil, that's got to be one of our key factors of success as an organisation, is that we see great practice spread. And if we can do it in North Wales, then the rest of the NHS can look at us and follow. But I know that your role is going to help us with that as well. So 20,000 people spreading good practice, then we're going to be a much better health board.
Da iawn, diolch yn iawn. And networks across the One Health Board. And getting people to recognise that our One Health Board is part of the answer as well. Diolch yn iawn am y cwestiwn. Dyna ddod â'r cwestiynau I ben ac yn wir. Dyna dod â'r cyfarfod I ben. Dyna ni di'r rhedeg chydig bach yn hwyr, ond doeddwn ni'n ymwneud sicrhau bod pobl efo cyfle I godi cwestiynau. Ga I ddiolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd sydd wedi dod yma heddiw. Rhai o'n chi wedi teithio yma o bell. Diolch y galon am eich presenoldeb. Diolch yn arbennig I rhai sydd wedi gwneud cyflwyniadau. Dwi'n gobeithio, os cymeron ni un peth allan y cyfarfod yma sydd yn gyfarfod blynyddol, swyddogol, ond gynewch ni gymryd yr anogaeth yma sydd wedi bod yn yr stafell I ni gyflawni mwy ac I gyflawni mewn ffyrdd newydd, ffyrdd gwahanol. Os cymeron ni hwnna o heddiw, bydd heddiw wedi bod yn llwyddiant. Diolch I bawb sydd wedi bod yn rhan o drefnu'r cyfarfod. Mae yna lot fawr o waith wedi mynd mewn, a felly diolch I Helen a Pam a'r tîm o Diane sydd wedi cadw ni gyd mewn trefn. Diolch y galon Diane a Llunos a Laura. Lowri ac Eira wedi bod yn gwneud y cyfieithu. Diolch fawr iawn I chi am ymdopi o fynd I un iaith i'r llall. Dwi'n meddwl dwi'n gweld yr haul rwle yn Llandudno, neu o leia dwi ddim yn bwrw glaw, felly mae hynny'n newyddion da hefyd. Dwi'n edrych ymlaen at eich gweld chi rhywbryd yn ystod yr wythnos yma. Mae gen ni gyfarfod bwrdd fory, mae gen ni gyfarfod seremoni wobrwyo nos Wener yn Llandudno, felly mae'n wythnos brysur. Byddwn ni'n gweld rhai ohonych chi. Diolch I chi os ydych chi wedi ymuno ar-lein, ac gai orffen drwy ddweud, mae yna 20,000 o bobl yn gweithio'n galed iawn yn y bwrdd iechyd I sicrhau yn bod ni yn gwneud cynnydd, ac ar ran Carol a Fina, dyn ni'n ddiolchgar iawn am bob ymdrech dych chi'n gwneud ac yn edrych ymlaen at barhau ar hyd y daith. Diolch fawr iawn I chi a pnawn da.